slavery, this government has showed very little concern for the descendants of the slaves, but showed a lot of concern for slave owners who got reparations. And we were supposed to get the 40 acres and a mule, but that ultimately went to white immigrants that came over from Europe. So they have showed all through the many centuries that they don't care about us. And they still have no concern now. Our forefathers were just slaves and then thrown off of the plantations. Even prisoners are slowly introduced back into the public. They get to go to a halfway house, get a job, and slowly build and establish their lives all over again. Even the immigrants, when they come here, they can go to a sanctuary state, city, or county and be safe from police. There's no white mobs going in there bothering them. And they can slowly build a life where they get to work and earn a living and have families and not have to worry about ICE and the police bothering them. Well, we never had that because during Reconstruction, we had over 200 towns that were taken out by white mobs. So not only did we get kicked off of the plantation without any transitioning into a life without the plantation, every time we tried to establish ourselves and make a life for ourselves, we kept getting disturbed over and over and over. Just like we are very much disturbed today with mass incarceration and throwing you in jail on all kinds of bogus charges. And then we can't go a day without some exoneration coming up. It is very common. So this came out in the Good Men Project, ladies and gentlemen. That time, white slave owners got reparations while slaves didn't get 40 acres and a mule. And that's very true. Very true. Reparations are in the news thanks to a few minutes in the limelight at the recent Democratic debate. Now, we remember that the only one that was really open and willing to talk about reparations was Marianne Williamson. All of the other candidates, they pretty much did not have much to say about it at all. In fact, you saw how recently how Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden gave answers. None of them would commit to supporting reparations. And that's pretty much historic from people like them. It's historic. America has given reparations before to Japanese Americans who were taken from their homes during World War II and placed in internment camps, to Native Americans for land seized by the federal government, to victims in North Carolina of forced sterilizations under a decade-long eugenics program that would have made Hitler proud. The state of Florida paid descendants of a town of Rosewood to acknowledge the state's failure to act when Blacks were killed and or burned out of their town. They failed to address reparations for Blacks killed and or burned out of the city of Okoti. Once was apparently enough. The general response from white people has been to suggest that Black people are owed nothing as a result of generations being held in slavery, ensuring beatings, rapes, and building this country for free, while their owners reap the benefits as they do today. Some sympathize, but suggest there's no way to distribute the money fairly, and the wrong people would benefit. That's a bullshit answer, y'all. They know who the descendants are. They have done the census in this country for a few centuries now. Okay, so they know who the descendants are. If I can go and find my people in the US Census from slavery, this country can do the same thing. So that's a BS answer, and never accept those answers. Those are very poor answers. Almost none know that white slave owners received reparations from the government, while at the same time denied former slaves their promised 40 acres and a mule. Absolutely. Andrew Johnson was never supposed to be president. He wasn't even Abraham Lincoln's first vice president. Lincoln, famously a Republican, crossed party lines and chose Democrat. Johnson, a segregationist. His selection was an olive branch to the South, with hopes it would quicken reconciliation after the Civil War. Johnson was the only sitting senator from the Southern state that didn't resign after his state secession. He got off an auspicious start as vice president, giving a rambling inauguration address while allegedly drunk. Well, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. He was vice president for less than 6 weeks before Lincoln was assassinated and became president of the United States. A Southerner from Tennessee found himself in charge of unifying the nation. The fox was in charge of the hen house. On January 16, 1865, General William Tecumseh Sherman issued Special Field Order Number 15, which provided for confiscation of 400,000 acres of land on the Atlantic coast of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. Others ordered and acts were intended to distribute land throughout the South to freed slaves. Congress also directed that confiscated lands be given to former slaves. In some cases, loaned mules to work the farms. President Johnson, however, was partial to any former Confederate who sworn a loyalty oath. At one point, there was conflicting orders that confiscated land to be distributed to former slaves and loyal Southerners. After complaints from his Southern friends, Johnson soon cleared that up and gave practically all of the land of former owners, taken the land back that slaves had made improvements on, granting it without compensation to the men that formerly owned them. I mean, what else do you expect? Seriously, what else do you expect? You know, a lot of these people today in the Democratic Party got the spirit of Andrew Johnson. You look at how they avoid the question of reparations or dance around it, you know, and nothing has changed. As you can see, this is why I tell y'all these folks represent the past. They sound just like their forefathers. Nothing about them is different or progressive. Nothing. Reparations to white people haven't been a single act. It's a process. Even since attempts to provide land to freed slaves were countered by state laws, the Black Codes, that prevented Black people from owning land. The Freedmen's Bureau regarded those laws as unconstitutional and acted as if they didn't exist. Federal troops remained in the South, helped keep the peace throughout the existence. So what they're talking about is these freed slaves should have got land, and they had cleared a lot of land so they could take it over. And of course, you had a president that just reversed everything and gave everything back to the original owners because he did not want to do anything for these former slaves. Just like the mindset that you see on the people today. So they're saying you weren't a slave. Well, okay, but these folks were, and they were still given nothing. So your whole history is just full of excuses for not righting a wrong that was done. It's just full of excuses, just like it is in present day. More excuses on top of excuses. You gave excuses to the slaves themselves, and you're giving excuses to the offspring today. Okay, so Johnson and those who followed were intent on restoring land to white people. The Freedmen Bureau changed its focus to education opportunities and wage controls. The first dozen years after the Civil War ended up being reparations to white people that lost the war and now declared loyalty to the Union. In 1877, reparations went into overdrive. So they gave these reparations to whites only. But see, these white people of today, you don't hear them complaining they shouldn't have got it. They weren't entitled. No, because these were their people. And they really weren't entitled. They were not the ones that worked for free. They shouldn't have got anything. The Compromise of 1877 meant the federal government abandoned the South and removed the federal troops. In 1888, Posse Comitatus ensured that federal troops would never return. Reconstruction was over, and Jim Crow was ushered in. Slavery begat the Black Codes, which begat Jim Crow. All a form of or legalizing the racial inequality benefiting white people. In other words, reparations for white people. Yes. So they always, and you can see even back in the day, they always benefited off of our misery and still do today. Mass incarceration is slavery, according to the 13th Amendment. So who is benefiting? They are. They're getting all this free prison work done or paying them pennies every day for prison labor. It's just slavery all over again. Would this be the only example in history? The GI Bill was credited with being the vehicle that did more to create wealth in the middle class and educational opportunities for veterans and their families, while theoretically available to all that qualified. The all white administrators in the government ignored the inability to blacks to get loans from banks or acceptance in segregated colleges. Exactly. They literally locked black veterans out of the GI Bill for a long time. FHA too. You got locked out for a long period of time, and everything went to white people only. But these folks want to be in your face talking about you had the same opportunity, and they know while they're saying that to you that they're lying. They know they're lying, and they're saying it anyway. They know they're lying. We never had no same opportunity lie, just like the opportunities are not the same today. And don't let them tell you it is. It isn't. America's history is repleted with reparations to white people, now centering mostly on the rich, as in the 2017 tax cut ushered in under Donald Trump. The interference that Black people don't deserve reparations require one to ignore that white America has always depended on them. That's right. That's right. And I'm glad they brought up the tax cut, because that is a form of reparations going to primarily white people in this country. It is. They're getting something for nothing. And that's been their whole history here, something for nothing. While the issue of reparations is complicated, we can start by being honest and acknowledge it has not only always existed, but white people have benefited the most. Yes, and nothing has changed in America. That's why there's such a big wealth gap between Black and white people, because everything is still benefiting the white community in this country. If that was not the case, we would not be looking at a wealth gap, ladies and gentlemen. That is very much the case. But just understand that America likes everything in balance. They like it this way. The government likes it this way. They have not lifted a finger to correct it. That should tell you they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. And this is why reparations must always stay on the table, ladies and gentlemen. It must always stay on the table. I don't care how tired they get of hearing about it. Dianne Feinstein, I don't care how tired you are of hearing about it. You're going to hear about it. Ladies and gentlemen, please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.